welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at gods5minutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. So opens the 3rd chapter of the book of Daniel. Old Nebuchadnezzar has been gone for about 2,700 years, but if we study the story and the things that led up to that long ago pagan king making this enormous sacrifice to his vanity, we can find lessons that still very much matter today. By the measures of the time, this huge statue was about as tall as a 10-story building or 103 feet. Nebuchadnezzar dreamed a dream in which he saw an image with a golden head, but the rest of the image was less valuable material. Was he trying to disprove and perhaps counter the dream with its image all of gold? It is not so easy to frustrate God's design. The fact is, the city of Babylon was very old, as it had been the center of commerce and religion in Mesopotamia for 1,000 years. But Nebuchadnezzar's realm was new. For a very short time, he had conquered and brought together citizens of many different nations, tribes, and languages under his dominion. Brilliant king and innovator that he was, he likely had in mind to unify these vast, divergent populations into some workable body that could be governed and utilized to further the interests of his own nation, both commercially and in conquest of still more regions. What better way to do this than to influence them to a common religious perspective? Hence a golden image, massively impressive and intended to surpass anything these folks had ever seen before, with the irrevocable command for all his citizenry to bow down before it on pain of death, for disobedience to orders given for such purposes must carry the seeds of insurrection. For this great undertaking, Nebuchadnezzar summoned all the political and governmental leaders under his dominion, magistrates, military officers, governors, influential officials of every stripe and capacity. They were to come together at one time and in one place to be entertained and beguiled by religious pageantry, bands playing, speakers speaking, before the magnificent golden image. Then at the supreme moment, all were to bow down together in a terrific outpouring of worship and devotion to the pagan god, to the king who had caused its creation, and the nation which he represented. Nebuchadnezzar was a brilliant man. But brilliance is not the same as righteousness, and in Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom were some brave souls who worshiped the Lord Jehovah, only the Lord Jehovah, and would dare to beard the lion in his den by refusing, even with the knowledge of what this event must have meant to the pagan ruler, to bow the knee to any god but to him. So they faced the burning fiery furnace, and every Sunday school child knows the rest of the story, how their bonds burned away, but not a hair of their bodies was singed. So what does the old story mean to us today? Assuming the image was to the heathen god Marduk, Nebuchadnezzar wasn't summoning his minions to make a long, possibly perilous journey from the four corners of the kingdom to the plain of Dura because he was so devoted to this pagan god, rather. He was using people's susceptibilities to extend control over them, and what he really wanted was not so much for them to bow to the god as for them to acknowledge his ability to make them bow. It's a very old idea with politicians, although few in the centuries since have done it as skillfully and extravagantly as that old monarch from the past. Today, the state wants to demand that we bow down to another set of ideas totally foreign to Christianity, the ideas of gender fluidity with its perversions, of government ability to modify weather and climatic conditions, of forced redistribution of wealth being a conduit of social justice and peace. God's word still teaches, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, He is one Lord. He is King and ruler of the universe, and it is only to Him that we Christians can bow." Have you talked to Him today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at godsfiveminutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.